Hey guys, my name is Shama. I am the program director here at Girls In Gis. We are excited to be here for yet another Girls In Gis Real Talk episode. Today we're talking about COVID and how it has impacted businesses in the Jiu-Jitsu world. I have my partner in crime today, Charlene Coates. How you doing, Charlene?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Glad to have this conversation. It's really important right now, so let's do it.
Awesome. So representing some of the athletes that have been impacted by COVID, I have Heather Woods here with us.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Awesome. Suay Al-Aziz is an owner of an academy in San Antonio area. I wanted to have her on today to talk about some of the issues that academy owners are facing during these times.
Hi guys.
And last but not least, our first ever guy on our Real Talk here for Girls In Gis, representing Seth Daniels of Fight to Win. Seth has been a longtime supporter of Girls In Gis, has been a big advocate for women in the sport. How are you doing today, Seth?
Good, and it is 2020. Guys could do things too.
Exactly. Exactly. So I know a lot of you guys, this is something that just kind of came out of left field. I know for myself, being a business owner, it's been a time of having to be really creative, coming up with new ways to do business, coming up with new ways to generate revenue. So I wanted to go ahead and take this opportunity to ask you guys, what are some of the things that you guys have, what are some of the strategies that you've had to develop in order to keep your business from closing? And what realizations have you had so far as, you know, creating a sustainable future for your businesses?
I'll go last. So whenever you guys are done, because I have a habit of taking over conversations and talking too much because I'm a man. So ladies first, go ahead.
Well, for us, we just had to really change and implement the way people coming in, having to ask the questions and taking temperatures, you know, and we did start off with our little 6-foot bubble taped out on the mats, but that didn't stay very long because my husband vacuumed them up with the vacuum. But so I mean, it sucked because we were closed for roughly 2 months, and rent is not cheap, and my landlord did not give us a break. They just said, we won't charge you late fees. So I mean, it really sucked, and I lost a lot of students because of COVID, and like some of them were in the service industry, so they lost their jobs. I had lost like half my kids' class. I usually carry about 60 kids. And I lost half of those, and some of them still haven't come back because either their parents are nurses and working in the medical field and they're not willing to risk anything. So we had bought some dummies and stuff and tried to work our way into it gently, and we just kind of picked back up when they went into phase 2. And even now it's still like kind of touch and go whether they're going to let us go back, but it sucked. There's no real nice way to say it. We did do the SBA loan, which helped a lot. I chose to do some renovations and then change my floors to spring floors to kind of help bring in more of my judo students again. And I have big guys, so they need a little extra padding on the floor. So, and that seems to be working out because I'm almost back to normal on my judo staff. So, it's just every day is different, so we have to wait and see. Some days I have 25 to 30 students come back, and sometimes I have like 6. It's just kind of hit and miss. So,
What about you as an athlete, Heather?
It's been hard. Like the journey was like 2 weeks in Mexico, and I drilled a little bit with a friend. I tried those white girl workouts where you do like squats on your couch, and I hated that. And then when I got to Idaho, about 2 weeks, I kind of quarantined myself. And then I started training with a friend a couple days a week. I have a friend, he's like 150, wrestled for like 30 years. and he's a good black belt. So we just trained just me and him for most of quarantine. So that was nice, but it's just stylistically a little different than training with a female. So if, you know, anyone under overpasses me, like, I'm going to omoplata you, but like when you have different body types, when you compete with females, like definitely going into this last competition the other weekend, I was really nervous because I haven't had a lot of, at Atos we have, I don't know, Charlene, how many, you say like 20 competitive girls on the mat on average, 10 to 20. So it was definitely different, and having no unemployment, having little to no private lessons, and I did some Zoom classes to make a little money here and there, but it was a struggle. Even now, I respect everyone's belief or view on COVID, so I'm doing some private lessons with a person. I'm doing some private lessons like with a dummy. Like the other day, I taught 4 guys, and I brought an uke, and then I just showed them move, and then they did with their like quarantine group. So we weren't like, we were still like social distancing. And then, like I said, I did some Zoom, but man, it was tough. It's like hard not to have motivation, hard not to have fights coming up. And to be honest, like I was nervous to fly to fight for you, Seth, because I don't want to be on an airplane with 100 people I don't know, and I can't drive from Idaho to Texas. So that was another thing too, is where am I going to fight? It's too far. So yeah, it was tough. That was me. That's it.
I'm itching to hear from you, Seth.
You want me to go?
Go for it.
I mean, like, me and Missy, you know, we've been talking quite a bit about this. Like, I mean, I get it, you know, like, quarantine sucks and all that, you know, but like we had a blast. Like, you know, like we partied like every single day and trained every single day and lifted weights every single day, but watched our bank account completely almost diminish to nothing. You know, I don't want to say it's lucky because I busted my ass for the past 5 years, but we have enough money saved that like if we had to go out of business for a couple of years, we'd be able to survive. You know, but it doesn't really – I'd say the first couple of weeks, it was just like we were just kind of like – we were going so hard. We were like, oh, we're just going to take a break. And so it's like everybody – like all my staff moved up to my house. So we had like 10 people living here. And we were just like training and fucking lifting weights and just like watching movies and 90 Day Fiancé for like pretty much the first month, I would say, of quarantine. And then it started getting kind of depressing. You know what I mean? Because it's like we were still training. Like we had like I had UFC fighters coming to my house because we put up like tons of mats in the house. It was a pretty big house, and people were training for their UFC fights, and we were all training like the entire time. Like we got out of quarantine like way better shape than we were when we went into it. But about a month into it, it started getting like pretty depressing because it was just like, at first we thought it was just going to be like a quick thing. And then when we realized that like this is going to be around for a while, like this isn't going anywhere, it started getting kind of scary. And then my girl I was seeing at the time helped write a resume for me. And me and Missy started looking for jobs because we were like, man, like, if we're not going to be able to do anything, like, we got to start doing we got to get a real job. And, like, after about 2 days of, like, you know, doing Zoom interviews on the computer, we were both just like, fuck this shit. Like, it's tough to do, like, an interview when you run your own business for so long, and then, like, you're being interviewed by some 25-year-old that doesn't know anything, and they're all, like, trying to – it's like you're asking me questions I would ask a child. Like, you know what I mean? I just like, I don't have it in me, and neither does she. And so we were just like, we got to figure out how to make this work. And so we just like tried a bunch of ways, and Flo kept saying no to all of our ideas on how to get things going again. And then one night I took like a whole bunch of edibles, and then I woke up at like 3 a.m, and I like figured out the math somehow. then just like banged on her door. And like at 3 a.m., we did a bunch of energy drinks and went downstairs, and like she double checked all my math. And I was like, I figured it out. I know how to get this going again without anybody in the crowd. Like I've got it figured out. And so I pitched it to Flo, and we agreed on it, and we just started going from there. You know, things are different for sure. With the events, like it's funny, like I listen to what you guys are doing at your schools and all that kind of stuff. And I don't even know if I'm supposed to say what we're doing at my school, but like we train with masks on. And I know that's kind of weird. But I developed a mask that stays on while you train. So we've been doing that. One thing that we're doing at our school is we're obviously not advertising our schedule. It's invite only. No new people can sign up. It's only to existing members. And if you're in one group, that's your group. You can't train at other gyms because we have 10 in Colorado. So I'm not meaning like cross training at like, you know, Lovato school or anything. Like literally you can't go to the other Easton schools. You can only train at our school at the set time that you selected to train. Right. And then I travel obviously every week, right? And so the group voted on if me and Ed could even train with them. And if they would have said no, I wouldn't even been upset. Me and Ed would have just kept training here, because doing the events and doing all that's way more important to me than training myself. Like I don't even care. I'm old and broken. You know what I mean? Like I do it for mental relief. Like that's the main reason I train, is health and mental. Like I don't really care about competing. You know, I love doing it, but it's like I barely ever get to compete because I'm always injured. You know, we try to do things as safe as possible, but, you know, the shows themselves are way different than they used to be. You know, I watched a lot of the copycats, and they're not, in my opinion, they're fucking it all up. We take it real seriously. Like we enforce the mask policy. We have mask security, and people, especially we're in Texas, they're not happy with it. And I've had to kick multiple people out of the shows for refusing to put their masks on. And I don't understand these that like want to die on, I call it Mask Mountain, that are just like, oh, I'm not wearing a fucking mask. And I'm like, okay, well, you want to get back to life, or do you want to sit at home and continue to cry and complain about stuff on Instagram? You know? So like, obviously nobody likes wearing them, right? But if it helps a little bit and it helps us get back to life, you know what I mean? It's not the battle to pick right now. So people have to wear masks. They have to have a temperature of 99.6 or less, which is much less than what the COVID standard is, which is 100.4, right? So they have to have a temperature of less than 99.6. We have sanitizer on all the tables. You can only do 6 people to an 8-foot round table, which gives you a diagonal of 6 feet apart, and you have to have 6 feet in between each table. They're not allowed to get up and stand around. You can go to the bathroom and go back to your seat, but you can't stand and linger or get in groups. When they're warming up, they have to have masks on unless they're actually warming up on the mat. We sanitize the warm-up area all the time. And then the mats are done with this stuff we got from the company that does that Pohada gi wash. And it's like a 72-hour lasting like killer of like staph, ringworm, stuff like that. You know, who knows how this really works on COVID, but I mean, like, I figure if it can kill staph for up to 72 hours, you know, it's probably pretty good. Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, I'm looking off to the side. I'm petting my dog. So I don't think I was looking at my cell phone or anything. It just like my arm. But I've been gone for 3 days and I just got home. So she like essentially won't leave my side. So, you know, we're doing that. And then one of the biggest changes, and I honestly like, I've liked it a lot, is I've let people like, it's very hard to get on a Fight to Win show if you're from out of state, right? Normally. If you are, unless you are pretty much, you know, like an Otto superstar or, you know, a Danaher superstar, you got, you know, credentials, right? But now, since I can only sell like 150 to 200 tickets per show, which I can do by myself, I'm like last weekend show, there was only 7 people from Austin on the entire show. We still sold out because we can only sell 200 seats, right? So if people apply, I know it's their risk, but I'm like, hey, if you buy a plane ticket, I guarantee you have a match. It's guaranteed. You get to compete, right? So is that awesome for the competitor? No, because they can't make any money and they're spending money to compete. But if they get them early enough, flights are cheap enough on Spirit Frontier, then you get $50 flights, come in, get away for a weekend, you know, be around a good community, go to a pool in a state that's a little bit more open than most are, you know? And so our shows, I've been having people come in from Boston, New York, California, Vegas, like all over that. I would have never put on a show, never. And they're getting all these opportunities, and we've been able to put together these huge cards, and everyone's making less other than Gordon, but everyone's pretty much making less money. We're making almost nothing. Flow's paying us more money to put the events on because a lot less people are buying tickets. So a lot more people are buying subscriptions. So it's all flowing downhill. You know, it starts with Flow, and then they give me the money, and then I give it to the fighters, whatever I have, and then whatever's left, give it to the staff. But, you know, for the most part, it's working really well. And I can speak for someone that travels all the time. Heather, planes are much cleaner and airports are much cleaner than they were prior to COVID.
Really? Because, dude, I've been seeing stories, and they have like 3 people on each side, and I was like, oh man, I don't know.
Well, I only fly Southwest, so I can only speak to Southwest. But on Southwest, everyone wears masks. The seats, you can only do aisle and window, which is perfect for us, you know, and then they're super clean, and like that airports are like 20% full. Like there's no lines or anything. I mean, I'm not telling people what to do, you know, I mean, like my whole thing is I just want everybody to be as safe as possible, but live your life as safely as you possibly can. Because I have kidney disease, and I've been having some issues. And I know if I get this, I'm going to be in big trouble. But at the same time, I would rather deal with my issues with kidney disease than I would with the depression of not being able to work and doing stuff. And me and Heather are pretty close, and we talk about this kind of stuff quite a bit. And I go down a pretty bad rabbit hole of depression, and not working for me and not being able to pursue the things I love is much worse for me than having a cold for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
know?
For sure.
Plus, I don't hang out with any super old people, but you know, I mean, like I haven't seen my kid's great grandma in 6 months, and that's like the only person that I know that's like over 80 years old that I see on a regular basis. But for other people that, you know, live with their parents or constantly in the community, you know, if I was someone that was constantly seeing a grandparent or a parent, I probably wouldn't train. You know, you got to make those decisions. But that's the beautiful thing about, you know, the world is you can have your opinion and you can go do what you think is best for you. I just feel like you need to do what's best for you while also trying to respect other people's space and trying to protect those around you. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's enough of me because I was like 5 minutes timing myself. Sorry, I'll do this like all day, so I'm going to go with my mouth and shut it.
No, you touched on like so many, I think, important aspects of how people are being affected by COVID. You know, one of them that you talked about are these guidelines now that have to be followed. And that's going to have an impact to your business and what you can offer. And so I'm interested in, you know, hearing maybe a little more on that. And obviously, Suay, the way the guidelines impact what you can offer is going to be very different than what Seth can offer. And then for you, Heather, as an athlete, you know, how have these guidelines affected your training camps? You mentioned that you just did an event for Seth, and you know,
no, I didn't do one for Seth. I said I wanted to.
Oh, you wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted to, but I did one in town here.
Oh, that's right. You came to San Diego, but still, I mean, you had to prepare, and obviously, with guidelines, places being closed, businesses limiting to what they could offer. You know, how did you prepare? Like, how are these guidelines affecting you all?
Do you want to go first? Sorry. Yeah, you go first.
Okay. It doesn't matter. No, it's the same thing as what Seth said. You know, everybody's training with a mask on. They went back and forth on like mandating the masks, and they were like $250 fine. Now it's like $1,000. There's an academy in town that got hit with the fine because the staff wasn't wearing a mask. But now they're saying that all of us have to wear masks. So, you know, I have have students that are not a fan, but I'm like, well, either you train or you don't. I mean, it's better than me closing my business permanently. So, they do have the same household training partners, or they have their trusted group that they want to work with and they drill with. We had a guy that fought on Seth's card in Austin this past weekend. And so getting him ready was a little bit of a challenge because of everybody's schedule, and his normal training partners aren't able to come back and train because, family members that are like immunocompromised, things like that. So it's definitely been a challenge of trying to figure it out, but we're navigating pretty well. It's just, you have to adjust to stay in business. I have to adjust to what everybody's needs are and just trying to make it work.
Is the mask thing like the toughest guidelines for you guys?
It is definitely hard when you're doing warm-ups and stuff like that. Rolling is a little bit. I wear like a neck gaiter that I twist up where it stays on my face and on my head a little better. When I'm doing judo warm-ups, it's like not very easy. It's like a lot of fast-paced stuff, so it's a little harder to breathe, but I do it. It's kind of like cutting weight. It sucks, but you got to do it sometimes. So, I think that's the biggest thing is everybody's complaining about wearing the mask when having to spar, or if they want to spar, kind of thing. But most
see, that's one thing. But I don't understand when someone complains about going in a store for 15 minutes and having to wear a mask. I'm just like, I don't know.
Sure.
For training would be hard. I actually haven't trained with a mask on, so I don't even know what that's like.
Yeah, it's like you're just breathing water. It feels like it. The mask gets kind of wet from all the steam. But I don't see why they're complaining about going into the store and stuff. I mean, it is what it is, But yeah, training with it's definitely different. But
yeah, it seems like
we're doing it.
It seems like with training, everybody kind of says, okay, it's just like the handshake, right? We agree to do violence to each other. Violence. Kind of feels like when you're going to a jiu-jitsu gym, like we've kind of made this pact to exchange fluids and germs and things. And
fluids.
Right.
I mean, it happens, we're not like, I don't come out dry, so I don't.
For sure.
But
everybody's a sweaty mess.
What about your camps, Heather? What? Sorry, Suay.
What? What'd you say, Suay?
Oh, I just said everybody's a sweaty mess.
Oh yeah. And what'd you say, Charlene?
Your camps, Heather. Like, how have you had to adapt with the guidelines to make your camps happen?
So for one of the things that Seth talked about was like getting depressed. Like I went to 154 in quarantine. And it was hard because I didn't see an end goal. And I didn't think of living. I live in a camper, but for a while I was parking the camper at my parents' house. So I was really in closer contact with them than I would like. And I was worried about flying to Texas or a larger state and being on the airplane. And not having a goal and not having motivation definitely was the hardest thing. I had to come up with little things, and I decided to take a local event here. It was really small, but it was nice for like a stepping stone of something to be like, okay, like you need to lose weight, you need to get back to a place like physically and mentally where you want to be, because it was fine for a while. Everything was great. I probably baked a different dessert every day for about 2 months. But and all my neighbors loved me, but because they got extra dessert, but I wasn't happy with myself. And I had worked so hard the last year on my business. I do microblading and teaching private lessons and competing. I was winning. I felt like the person I've always wanted to be. I had formed into this person, and it was kind of hard because when this all happened, it shook that all up and it kind of went downhill. So like having to come back from all that was super tough. And like there was a lot of personal things that I had to go through, like having to go back to hometown, which was really hard. So just having a reason to get out of there was good. And hopefully soon I'll be able to do more fights, and maybe Seth will get on a plane, or I'll just drive to Texas. But Yeah, the plane I'm still a little nervous about, but I definitely need those goals because as an athlete, it's really hard. I've talked to a couple of girls who fight MMA and they didn't have a fight for a while. They gained a bunch of weight. They felt sad. They drank a lot, and we're all kind of in the same boat. So it's been hard. It's like we have to find those little goals every day so we don't just ruin ourselves mentally.
Absolutely. I kind of went through the same thing where I was so used to go constantly, and then I had nothing to do, and then I had a lot of fun for a little bit, and then I was like, okay, I don't have any goals. I'm just kind of wandering aimlessly, and so then that's why this came about. So
yeah, it's a tough time right now out there, I think, for everybody. I mean, I stopped competing, I stopped trying to live the life Heather's currently living a few years ago. I'm a little bit older than Heather. Not that age dictates any of that sort of stuff, but one thing that was still adamantly important for me was that I keep training. And so coming to San Diego and jumping on Atos, the train is just so readily available there. And then COVID hit, and just a whole, kind of a shifted perspective, because I don't run an academy, and my job isn't in the jiu-jitsu industry, but because of how COVID affected my jobs, it's actually affected my ability to get back to jiu-jitsu, which is something that I know a lot of people are facing right now. And I know for you, Suay, and for you, Seth, you guys are probably taking that hit as well, for people that want to come back and support your businesses, or participate in your businesses and can't because they are now have their hands tied with their jobs or lack of a job or things like that. Is anybody doing anything, by the way? This is not something that we had decided to talk about prior, but is anybody doing anything that helps athletes who have lost their jobs? Do you guys know of anything that's going on to where they would have opportunities to train or to compete if they don't have an income right now? Because that is so many people in America right now.
Can I jump on? I mean, no offense to anybody that's lost their job, especially if any of you have done it, but the unemployment deal that is set to expire on July 31st is probably more money than most people were making. So I don't think we're going to see a massive impact on the economy until this upcoming month on what happens with spending. So we'll see if Congress continues that extra $600 a week. But I fired multiple people on my staff that I offered to come back, and we're like, well, I'm already making this much unemployment. Like, we're working for almost nothing now, right? And so it's like, you either do something because you love it or you care about money. And if you're lucky enough, you fall into a job or a position where you make enough money and still get to love what you're doing. But before I go on to the next part of that, kind of what you said about the regulations and doing all that kind of stuff is like, my whole thing is about pivoting. So it's like, okay, I am set to do events. I can do an event with 10 people in a room. I can do an event with 50 people in a room. I can do an event with 1,000 people in a room. I don't care, right? I'm going to do my shit. So no matter what happens, no matter what state I'm in, no matter what governor, no matter what mayor, no matter what happens, they enforce a guideline, I will make it work. And I've hired attorneys in every state I work in every city I work in. I filed permits properly. I do all the business that has to be done in order to keep my business surviving. I just refuse to sit back like a lot of other business owners do and just throw my hands up. Figure out how to make your business run, right? It's like Suay was saying, for judo, you know how fucking impossible that is to keep a mask on? Even a gator, your gi is being pulled the entire time. An uchikomi, every single time something's hitting your face. Every single time. That's fact. That's what it is. That's how judo is, right? I 100% believe that within the next month, grappling competition and wrestling and all combat sports are going to require a face mask being worn while you participated in it. So I created masks for us, for my athletes, I'm not even selling this shit. I just give it away for free to my athletes that they can wear while they compete. I'm going to wear a mask when I compete next weekend. And the reason I'm doing it, it's not mandated. I'm doing it to show that I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do myself. Now, I had a conversation with one of y'all's teammates. When I started getting this going, I messaged everybody and was like, hey, I'm going to get shows going again. These are the dates. Let me know if you can fight on the show, right? And he was one of the main ones that was like, I don't have anywhere to train. And I was like, lift weights in your basement and run outside and then fight. That's what everybody else is doing right now. So nobody has a full camp, okay, except for maybe Lovato. He could be the only school in Atos, I would say, or the only two places that, well, not even Atos because you're in California. So I don't know what they're doing, but they're winning a lot. So whatever they're doing, I know for sure that Lovato is fully open, but he's also in Oklahoma where they can do pretty much whatever that they want because they had no COVID cases, right? So other than that, we're all in the same position, right? You lift weights at home or you go to the gym over those first 2 months, you train with your friends, and then you go fight. I have people coming from Marcelo Garcia, Danaher, all those guys, they're coming and fighting on my shows. Everyone's like, oh, how can you bring these people in from New York? Motherfucker, they've been training at Gordon's house, okay? I see the videos. These guys are training in garages. If this is your life, you find a way to make it happen. And you stop making excuses. And I think every business can survive. Everybody can do stuff if they're willing to pivot and not just say, no, this is the way I'm doing it. It's the only way it's the only way it can be done. It's not true. There's nothing sadder to me than when I walk in or I go to a town and it's really bad in Colorado and you drive by it and you see these businesses closed down. It hurts because I know what it takes to start that business. I've been in the brick and mortar world. I know what it takes. And when 24 Hour Fitness bankrupted and shut down 120 stores, that crushed my soul because I helped build a bunch of those. But they did it because they were already going bankrupt anyways. But then they used the COVID as an excuse. And I feel like a lot of people do that too. They're using it as an excuse to make a reason why their business is failing instead of just finding a new way to make it work, you know? But that's probably not going to be very popular opinion. So I'm done talking.
I really love that opinion, actually, because my sister owns a dog walking business, and when all this happened, it's in Everett, Washington, and when all this happened, she asked a lot of her employees if they would come back and start doing these different procedures, and they built like a dog door where the dogs could come in, and there was no human contact, and 2 of her employees said, like, I'm making more money on unemployment, and she's like, all right. And it's just like for her, she did so much with her business to make everything by the regulations and the rules. And in Washington was like the Wuhan or Seattle of COVID. So like she was under a lot of pressure and she did like the pivot. But there's so many people who are like, meh, and they'd rather be lazy. And then they wonder why they're not champions. Like for me, it's crazy. Like you have to work hard. Everything is hard work. I feel like if you're not suffering a little bit, then you're not doing it right. Yeah, that's my opinion.
It forces you to evolve. This is a big push.
That's the better word. That's the word I was looking for when I kept saying pivot. Evolving. Going
Evolving.
to the yeah. Good job.
But you have to pivot to evolve.
Yeah, for sure. You got to pivot to evolve.
You can't evolve if you don't pivot.
So with that evolution in mind, do you guys think that there are any CDC guidelines so far that are unrealistic to implement?
For jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Well, social distancing is a suggestion, not a mandate. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing that is really difficult in our sport, obviously. But there's nothing that says you have to be 6 feet apart from somebody. That is a guideline, not a mandate. Everything else, whether I agree with it or not, it doesn't fucking matter. That's what the rules are. It doesn't matter, right? And I also am not one of those that believes that this is a big conspiracy to help somebody get elected. Like, motherfuckers are sick. I know people, this is going to sound super white privilege. And I apologize, but it is. I have a personal nurse, okay? Because of my kidney stuff and my blood problems that I have. And I go to her office or she comes here and I do my IVs just like I had to do today. comes to my house, did my IVs for me. She got COVID. And she got COVID with people going in there and getting sick. And so for like 2 weeks, I was dying because I couldn't get in to see my nurse to see her every single week. And so, I mean, I know this thing is for real, you know? And I think when people are just like, oh, it's bullshit, I can go do whatever I want. Like, no, you fucking can't. Like, wake up. You know what I mean? Like, people are dying from it. But at the same time, I don't think any of the guidelines or whatever really impose our freedom, right? And what good's your freedom if you're dead anyways?
Very true.
Valid. Super valid. I know for my jobs, I do one job from home and one I actually work for an orthopedic surgeon, which is, you know, don't knock on my door if y'all need surgery. I don't ask him about that stuff. Just kidding. No, but I mean, we had to make a lot of evolvements because he's a surgeon and surgeries were canceled. We're in California. You know, he needs to touch people and look at people. And so switching to telemedicine was really difficult. My job that I do from home, like, we're completely understaffed because of what you guys mentioned as far as people wanting to quit because they made more on unemployment, but that's not long-term sustainable. So I'm stuck working extra hours, not that I have to, but, you know, because they're not in a position where they can hire and, you know, so it's just evolving. And at some point I know, like, I'll be able to get my schedule back to being what it used to be. And like you said, Heather, getting to the life that we kind of had before, but it's 100% real. I mean, we got to do COVID tests so people can have surgeries right now. And when there's a positive test, it's a big deal. It means the difference between getting certain medical treatment or not getting it at that time. So I appreciate your comment, Seth, for sure. All right. So what pushback have you guys received? Or here's like maybe where we can open it up to some of the funnier Karen stories, because we all have them. They're out there. And I want to hear about it.
Before we go to this, can I just say one thing on Heather's thing? Is Heather, as an esthetician doing the eyebrows, that people think they're like, oh, that's, you know, it's a elective thing. That is a multi-billion-dollar industry, maybe trillion-dollar industry, makeup, right? And so you see a lot of people that are in that industry weren't able to do that kind of stuff. They weren't able to touch faces. They weren't able to do all that kind of stuff. That's one of the industries that's suffering more than anyone in the world. And I don't think a lot of people know that, or they don't see that because they don't even think about it like that. They're like, oh, people just buy their makeup and do that kind of stuff. So, I mean, like, if you're a makeup artist or something like that, like, now would be the time to start your YouTube channel, to build your Instagram with how-tos and stuff like that. That's just like a pivot. This woman I was dating for quite a while during the quarantine, she's big into the makeup stuff and started podcasts and all that kind. So I learned quite a bit about the makeup world and how crazy and shady it is. And it just made me respect it. Because that is a dog-eat-dog world. Like, you won't believe, you know, if you're not in it. But it's pretty cool. And then so it's like, you know, everybody's job is affected. It's like what Heather was saying. Everybody's suffering. You know, it's just a matter of how you want to deal with the suck. Are you going to embrace it, and figure out and, like Shaman said, evolve, or are you just going to cry and be a Karen? So let's get to the Karens.
Oh no, I just want to say one more thing on that. I did with brows. I have been able to evolve a little bit. Like,
yours amazing, by the way.
Thank you. That's the best compliment anyone can say to me. Yeah. I microbladed Charlene's too. So ladies,
look at you guys. Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna get my done.
But it's hard too because we're super sanitary. I wear a mask, they wear a mask. The spread is minimal, yet there's still so many guidelines. And when I came back to California, they shut everything down, so I didn't even have a chance to get back. There are some things that aren't regulated that I've been able to do as a mobile service, but it's just like collecting peanuts. Like, you know, I'm trying my best. I'm keeping my head above water, and I'm really grateful for my friends and family right now. So I've been teaching jiu-jitsu for super cheap and for food or whatever, but I'm happy and I'm making it. So like, I feel a little disgusted by the people who are like, woe is me right now. Not disgusted. I mean, there's some people with really, really bad situations. Like, if you have children, it's really hard. And if you have, you know, like an autoimmune, like an compromised immune system, and you can't work in a place or you can't be around people. So those are valid reasons. But when you're just lazy, I can't handle that. I just can't. Like, there's always ways you can involve. So thank you for understanding that. That was really nice. I appreciate that. But yeah, tell us about the Karens. I feel like Seth has the most Karens, but I don't know.
I don't know. I might have some too.
You got some Karens, Charlene?
I don't have a ton of Karens, to be honest with you. Like, the people that come to my events, like, you know, they're putting themselves out there too, you know. I mean, obviously, like, I haven't had any issues because I abide by all the guidelines and I work with police. So, you know, like, you come to a Fight to Win event, there's always cops there because I hire them. So I hire cops because, one, it helps to make sure that people know that they can't fuck around at the event. And also, it's just like, I know I don't do anything wrong at the events, you know?
Did that cause anybody to, like, pull out of any of your events, or?
But no, I haven't had any problems with that at all, about people not wanting, because everyone's taking the risk. And then when you come to the event, you see that I'm actually taking it seriously, you know? And I was one of the first proponents that was like, this thing's a joke. Like, when it first came out, like, I remember I posted this thing about COVID on how I wasn't going to cancel any events. But as the shit got more real and real, it's like, we got to learn how to deal with this, you know? And now I'm, like, probably the safest person. It's because I want jiu-jitsu to survive.
Yeah, for sure.
I really do. You know what I mean? But I would like to see everybody that's hosting events or running schools do everything as close as to the guidelines as possible so we can all get back to our lives.
For sure.
No.
For sure. Like, I just tell all the students, like, there's no compromise. We have to follow the guidelines, because I'm not willing to pay the fine, and I'm not willing to have, like, any kind of bad press on, you know, hey, she's open for business, and they're not following guidelines. They're just, like, sharing everything and all their germs. I'm like, no, what are you going to do?
Which school do you run anyways?
It's Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, yeah. That kid just fought this weekend on my card. He's a good kid.
Right. Dayton
Biggs. He's a good guy.
Yeah, we went to the show. It was good. It was an awesome event.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. If you hear of a school getting a report that got reported, like Boogie School, that was absolutely not a random person in the community. That was someone from the jiu-jitsu community that has a problem with 10th Planet. Has to be.
I'm sure.
Why would somebody do that? Why would Karen Smith be walking by and just be like, oh, I'm at 10th Planet by 10th Planet Freaks, right? Why would she be there? You know what I mean? That place is like, you don't go to that part of San Diego unless you're going to go train at their school. You don't go to Freak Show and then just be like, oh, I walked by and I heard there's people in there. We should get the police over here. That's some other school. It's jealous that they were ballsy enough to open and got it shut down. If I owned a school, you know what I would do? I put a black plastic on all the windows. I'd invite all my students to come train on email only. I would not put any type of schedule out at all. And I would keep doing business as usual. And I would have been doing that since day fucking one. That's what I would have done if I owned an academy.
They definitely have those academy owners here in California, especially in Northern California.
Crossed my mind.
Huh?
I said it has definitely crossed my mind to do that in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wonder, like, because you're already like losing so much, right? And then you have these academy owners that are basically saying like, hey, we're not getting the loans. You guys aren't paying our bills. You're not paying our mortgages or our rents. We're not getting a break on these things. So we're going to be open. Some schools have not charged members, like if they couldn't pay up here, or even, they're limiting their advertising, but they are adamant, like regardless of the tickets or the fines or whatever, they're like, we are not closing our doors, because it's an individual's choice. If you want to go and make that exposure in a gym, like it's your choice. In a grocery store, okay, we all gotta go and we don't have a choice. We all have to buy food and eat food. So out of respect for others, okay, like we wear a mask and we follow certain guidelines. But in an academy, it just seems very unfair for certain businesses to be asked to close and no other solution is offered for you guys.
Right.
I have to hijack this. I have to hijack this. I'm sorry, Suay.
That's okay.
I have a major problem with the BJJ academies complaining about not getting loans, and here's why, okay? First of all, Suay got a loan. You know why Suay got a loan? Because she runs her academy like a business. right? A lot of BJJ schools out there, they have a great head instructor that's great at jiu-jitsu, has no business owning a business. He should just be competing, okay? Guess why these people didn't get loans? Because they didn't file their fucking taxes properly. It's not that hard. If you did shady shit to get to where you're at now, and now it's time that you need help and assistance, why would the government help you if you didn't do the shit right in the first place? You know what I mean? You have to have done the process correctly. And if you weren't doing it, I said this in a couple other interviews. I was like, you think Atos is going to close? You think Henzo is going to close? We have 10 schools and 8,000 students. We're not closing. The little small schools, a lot of those are probably going to close, but it has nothing to do with, oh, the government wouldn't help us out. It's because you weren't doing anything properly up until the point where coronavirus hit. And especially, it drove me crazy to see businesses out there laying people off 1 week after COVID. They were just like, oh, we're going to get shut down. Motherfucker, you own a business and you don't have a month's worth of reserve? Like, are you fucking kidding me? You didn't put away 1 month for a rainy day? Like, how's that even possible? How did you open a business in the first place? And I think that's a huge problem in the martial arts community, is people opening schools because they want to open their own school without ever paying their dues, without ever working at the front desk, without ever earning that business right to do that, you know? And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of smaller, and you notice only smaller schools closing. That's it. I'm done. Go ahead. Tell him, Suay. Tell him.
Oh, it was just saying, like, you know, it was hard because, you know, my husband and I are both veterans, so our school is just purely for a hobby. You know, that's not, it doesn't pay my bills. Not at all. There's no money for me in jiu-jitsu. It's just doing it because I like it, because I love it. And, you know, it's beneficial for a lot of the guys, or a lot of guys I have are veterans that suffer PTSD, and they need that. And, you know, there's some people that are hobbyists and just do it for fun, and then some people do it because they want to compete, and all those people are valid. But we got to follow the rules, and, you know, got to keep it rolling as much as possible. So,
well, that goes to another point too. If you're doing something only to make money, you shouldn't be doing it in the first place, right? Yeah. You're doing something because you love doing it, so you're willing to embrace the shitty parts of what's going on in today's life because you love what you're doing and you're helping other people, and that's where you're getting your satisfaction off of it. Okay, we make money doing what we do, but at the same time, it's not a lot. People think we make a whole lot more than we do. We just work really hard, but we love doing it. You know what I mean? I quit being an MMA promoter. I gave up a $300,000 a year salary at 24 Hour Fitness because I fucking hated it. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of these school owners, especially, I'd be surprised to see if a lot of Taekwondo and karate schools don't close, because those things make money like nobody's business. Like a Taekwondo school, those are just, they just print money there. You know, and if kids aren't going there, you will not see a lot of Taekwondo schools making it through this because of the love of the sport. I'm telling you, man, you won't. I grew up doing martial arts my whole life, man, and talking shit about karate and Taekwondo, doing judo, and like just to see, there's a reason a kid gets a promotion every third class. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just how it is. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of businesses that are closing now, it's because they don't love it enough. They don't love it enough to fight for it. It's just like a person, you know, you're going to let them go, or you're going to give everything that you can to be with that person. You got to make that decision.
Most definitely.
It's a hard one for sure. But I think after today, you know, the common theme that we kind of talked about was this is an opportunity for everybody to evolve, whether that's you evolve off into something else because you don't love what you're doing enough to hold on to it, or you evolve onto something else. So I think you guys are all prime examples of people who are embracing this change and kind of going with it and taking it to a whole nother level. So it was really awesome to have you guys on to have this discussion today. I'm glad that we got you on, and thank you, Seth, for being our first guy to participate in these discussions. It was great having you.
We should have had him wear a wig or something pink.
I have it. I have stuff here, I'm sure.
I'm sure you do. A little tutu.
Wearing masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, wearing our masks.
Kids, man. I got kids, like whatever they're into, you know. I mean, we got unicorns, we got all kinds in my house. You never know if I got boys or girls in here.
Okay.
Whatever makes them happy, that's how it works around here.
Well, I'm glad you guys are all embracing this too. It's rough. But
At least Charlene and I gotta do it by a beach. Like, I don't know.
I know. So
That
lucky.
is by design, okay? Just to like tie it in with everything else that's been said here. It was by design.
Thank y'all so much for having me. I really appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me too.